What if I told you that our children are not ready for the future?
We hear from businesses all over the country that it's very hard to hire people.
What if the gap between the classroom and the real world gets bigger and bigger?
There's a new study out that suggests that 80% of all jobs are going to be affected by AI.
Are our schools truly equipped to offer the best opportunities to our children? Or do we need to explore alternative paths? That's what I wanted to find out. I am right now in Madeira to meet one of my dearest friends, Rob Brinded, because he's planning something very special. Rob and his wife Sylvia will help me to understand what is wrong with our current education system and also answer the question if there is a way to reimagine education.
Yeah, I'm Sylvia Brinded-Perth.
She's a full-time mother and founder of A Place to Be. Rob is an author, educator and mind coach, and he worked in elite sports for several years.
Bang, bang.
I will be joining the full family, including their two kids, Bo. Hello. And Lima.
I'm Lima and I'm 6.
To understand more about the flaws of our education system and how Rob and Sylvia try to change this. My first question was, where does our education system come from?
So fundamentally, the education system is from the Industrial Revolution.
Before the Industrial Revolution, most of the countries were predominantly rural, and they were homeschooled or attended schools run by churches. So people didn't know how to work in factory jobs, as they were not conditioned to clock in for work yet. But then all of a sudden, there was a need to fill all of those jobs.
Yeah, it's been like 150 years almost, I think, that the schooling system was created to produce factory workers.
Governments realized they needed workers who could handle the demands of those new factories and industries. So they decided to create an education system. What was the goal of this?
It was actually to kind of produce soldiers, just people who obey.
The education system emphasized discipline, punctuality, and obedience.
Go into the factory, just do this for 8 or 10 hours a day, and that's it. That's all you need to do. But back then, it was a great idea and it worked, so everybody knew that once they got through this, they would get that job, and they did get that job. But yeah, that's been 150 years now, and the school system is based on the same principles.
Yeah, if you look at the current system, it's set up where there's an authority that teaches the curriculum, and they have to stick to that curriculum.
In the public schooling system, governments still have control over what students learn in school. They decide what every child needs to study as they go through the education system.
I'd like for this country to have a real education president for a change.
I'd like to be the education president.
If you have a student who questions that material, they're a bad apple.
In 2020, I quit my master's studies because my professor wanted to tell me that all this money printing happening won't have any effect on inflation. And we all saw what happened next.
Inflation is still rising in America, not that you need a reminder.
But I'm not the only one who experienced that some lessons are outdated.
I'm a software engineer, so I'm a Bitcoin developer, Nostr developer, and I'm sure it resonates with pretty much every person that has gone through normal schooling, that there is a bunch of bull that you need to do, that there is a lot of nonsense that you have to put up with, or you'll fail, that you end up learning that putting up with nonsense is the correct path.
I watched countless videos and read books about money printing and inflation, but my professor didn't want me to think differently.
It's not optimal for critical thinking or problem solving because you really can't in that system have every single child questioning the teacher. It would be mayhem.
What people need to learn is problem solving, critical thinking, innovative ideas, which they don't learn at school because everything they do is whatever the teacher tells them.
The kids who are very good at memorization of second-hand information, they're the ones that do well and go on to get the jobs, doctors, accountants, lawyers. So we have that old system, which is archaic.
Yeah, it's not just the way. It's been taught or like forced into their brains. It is what they learn, like the information is antiquated and sometimes it's not even true. And they're not learning real life things. And especially because the world is changing so quickly, and they're not adjusting at all.
You combine that with artificial intelligence, which, as you see every week, is obsoleting that whole educational system.
As this AI expert says, memorizing knowledge is something that you can automate very easily. And this doesn't prepare children for the modern workforce.
This is a very sad situation, and it's also extremely urgent, because right now the speed of change is beyond anything we can ever imagine. And we desperately need an alternative system for the children to escape to.
So Rob and Sylvia think that this old schooling system won't be able to prepare our kids for the disruptive future we're heading into. But what if there's an alternative approach that prioritizes freedom, curiosity, and self-direction?
I know there's a lot of people that are super weirded out by the idea of not sending your kid to school, but this type of schooling is extremely new.
Remember, it was just invented during the industrialization.
We've done schooling, like formal schooling, in the past, 100, 150 years. The human race has been doing unschooling for most of its lifetime.
Unschooling is a form of education that recognizes that learning doesn't just happen between the pages of a textbook or during structured lessons. It rather acknowledges that education is a lifelong pursuit and that genuine learning occurs when individuals are given the freedom to explore their passions and follow their own unique learning paths.
If teachers had the chance to try out new methods, giving kids the freedom, the choice, what to learn and when and how, then they would see that kids learn things all by themselves, even things like reading and writing and calculating and maths.
And that's why this approach sounds so interesting.
So we've got that top down. It's easy to think it's like the authority, and then we're like, rat race. And that was worked 100 years ago. What we want to do is just the complete opposite.
Rather than having a single authority dictating what children should learn and do throughout the day, Sylvia and Rob want to build a place to be, an approach entirely centered around the needs and interests of the children.
Parents have this place where they know it's a safe environment, where there are lots of kids and of all ages, where they can play together, everybody learns from one another.
Instead of making children follow a rigid path and memorize information, the alternative approach allows them complete freedom to learn.
If older kids want to learn coding or they want to learn maths or physics, we'll enable them to either find one of the best tutors in the world and do a live session with them, but it will be depending on what the kids want. If no kid wants to learn French, but we want to have a French teacher, right? It's almost like decentralizing learning from the individual out.
But if we don't force kids to learn specific subjects, will they really acquire the important skills they need to survive in our world?
There's a misunderstanding with people that think that there are things that are complex that require building blocks to understand, right? Like math, for example, is the typical one. Math is for the most part, is a tool, right? I've experienced this with myself. There are many things that I wanted to do, especially when you get down the side of cryptography. There is a lot of math involved that during my schooling I just ignored. So when I wanted to start with cryptography, then there were missing building blocks. But then I had intrinsic motivation to learn the math part, because it was going to take me to learn something that I was really interested in.
If you're being forced to learn something, then you might learn it for a short amount of time to do the test, to pass the test, and then you forget about it. Even if there is a kid super interested in something and they want all this information and they retain it because they love it, they have to stop after 50 minutes. There's no, okay, you stay here and continue learning about this. No, now it's math.
Why do kids hate to go to school? Although the same kids, when they were younger, showed a natural curiosity about learning.
If you go to school and you have a grade and you fail a grade, then this subject is hard, right? And it's a story that you keep telling yourself, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
They're forced to perform and to compete.
I mean, just think about that. Doing something that you hate every single day and being forced to do it. These kids wouldn't do that to themselves. They wouldn't choose to do that. They would choose to learn. Yes, they would, but not like that. They would learn better, more efficiently without that system. This constant good or bad, you did it or you failed, is really not good for the self-confidence. So the obvious part of this is if somebody fails the test, that is bad for their self-confidence. But if they do get the test right, they get an A or a B, it's still not good for their self-confidence because it's not self-confidence. The confidence depends on other people.
I think that's deeply harming and conditions the children for a lifetime of suffering.
The traditional schooling system teaches kids to start seeking external validation, which will result in prioritizing materialistic pursuits for approval and financial gain. Actually, not their genuine passions and long-term fulfillment. Rob calls this the hamster wheel.
I was on the receiving end of the adults for many years, and I worked in elite sport, so I saw men who succeeded on this hamster wheel, and people admired them and put them up as people to follow, and they wanted their kids to be like these professional athletes. But I know what was going on in their heads. They were succeeding on the pitch, but in other areas of their life they were deeply depressed. And whenever I methodically, factually look at what their troubles are, they're deeply conditioned within school. So the outcome is a life of suffering.
And that's the reason why they want to focus on building a place to be, ensuring that children have the freedom to pursue their own learning interest and cultivate their self-confidence in the process.
I wanted a place where the kids can just be. There's no expectation. That's why I called it a place to be, not a place to be free or a place to be learning or a place to be anything else. Well, the kids teach younger ones, the parents teach the kids, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a teaching environment like you know from school. It's just really by observing with all the five senses, like we learn from the day we're born, because the term unschooling is actually the natural way of learning. It is what every single human being does from the moment they're born until they're being put into school, and how they learn after school. So it's just learning by doing naturally.
When hearing this, I remembered that as a kid, I had a specific way I wanted to play the guitar. My teacher always told me that that's not the right way to play it. Well, I decided to quit taking the classes and taught myself through experimenting. And yeah, I guess it worked out fine.
A reason why I'm doing this is because I see kids who are being damaged, who are suffering, who are not enjoying their time, their lives. For example, my friend in Germany, she messaged me a few weeks ago and she said that her son, he's 10 years old, he started saying that he doesn't want to live anymore, and it's because he hates school and he's being bullied. And this is my friend whose kid goes to an ordinary primary school in Germany, in a little city in Germany. It's a quite safe environment, but still, he's 10 years old and he's had enough of being forced to go to school, being with people who bully him. And in Germany, parents don't have a choice because school is mandatory. In other countries, people can homeschool or unschool.
At this point, I understood that unschooling might be healthier for the kids, but I was still a little bit concerned about the career and how the future of the kids might look like.
So let's say at age 10, a kid likes reading and writing. Maybe they need to learn some maths and physics, but they'll learn enough maths by buying things. They don't need to do calculus. They love writing. Then they go and they spend all their time writing. You imagine when they're 18. And there's out of passion, that's a career. They will do it for the rest of your life.
Now that we talk about it, I understand a lot about my life. I did videos back when I was like 10 or 12. Then at some point, like during school and so on, I had the feeling, okay, making videos like this won't earn me money. School taught me, okay, you need to be good in math and physics and so on. And I was like putting all my effort into this and kind of losing my passion. Thankfully, Bitcoin for me gave me the freedom to think, okay, what am I really passionate about? And got me back into making videos. Like 12 years later, during those 12 years, I focused on something which I didn't truly enjoy. With this unschooling environment, Rob and Sylvia want to prevent exactly this. A Place to Be won't be the first one focusing on this kind of approach. There is a similar school called Summerhill.
And this school has been running now for over 100 years, so it's not like a project to see whether this is working or not. This has been working well for over 100 years.
And even just interacting with the kids there, somehow these kids are just built different.
So for example, she's 4 years old now. She speaks fluently, she speaks 3 languages. So she speaks Spanish, English, and Greek. She can read a little bit of Thai because we spent a few months in Thailand. To me, that mindset of things that I want to do are easy or possible, to me that's super valuable.
You're going to have this species of kids which have a highly developed skill set of problem solving. You can face them at any problem and they can resolve it. Coding, AI, they have the principles.
Allowing children the freedom to follow their curiosities, interests, and passions. Regaining their authority by being able to choose what to learn in a community of like-minded freedom maximalists who support one another.
That for me is the most important thing I can focus the rest of my life on, is developing a place where children are enabled to do that.
So if you saw this right now and you think your kid needs to have this education, then feel free to reach out, because this is the beginning of this project. And if you're a family, an investor, or you simply want to donate to make this idea happen, then reach out to Sylvia and Rob, because I felt that this is a real genuine idea which they want to make happen, but they also need your help, right? They need families, investors, or donations to make this happen, or anyone who has experience. So feel free to reach out. I'm gonna post the link down below, and you will see here the link which you can find more information about this project. And yeah, I would say let's make this together happen, right?